Hello, Internet. My name is John Kulas. I am a 20-year professor of industrial and organizational psychology. I'm a 10-year user of R for statistical applications. And for the last 6 or 7 years, I've been using R to author websites and technical reports and academic papers. And so this live stream happens every Friday at 2 o'clock Eastern. And we get together and work on authoring projects with the idea of helping others who also want to use R to author things. And the way that this is structured is each week we'll go over the previous week's session, just kind of revisit what was done and present it in maybe a more digestible, condensed format in terms of a summary. And then over the course of the last few weeks, we've been working on a long-term issue, which is the creation, the specification, creation, and control over dissertation formatting. And so we want one of the panelists here, Diego, he's working on his PhD in industrial and organizational psychology, and he's authoring it in R. We've had other students do this through the PapaJa package, which is a great R package to produce APA formatted manuscripts. Graduate schools have formatting requirements that are always a little bit different. And so what we want to do is we want to transition from using that almost there package, which is PapaJa, and we want to create our own template that other students can apply when they're creating their dissertations or theses using a platform such as R. And so ideally, we're going to get ours done for Montclair State University, which is where Diego is a student. But then we'll cut and slice up these different sessions and hopefully build a tutorial for other people who might be interested in doing this for their universities too. And we're not the first ones to do this. Many other universities have templates that can be used for purposes like this. And because that's a long-term problem solve that's going to take a few months to actually see the end of that project, we've been doing short-term issues too. And so today's short-term issue is going to be cross-references. Last week, we took a look at the new release of Quarto, this authoring platform that we've just started to use and are just learning ourselves. But in that release, one of the features that they wanted to highlight was an update to cross-references within documents. So today, rather, in the Midwest US here, it's day right now, but today we'll spend the first probably half of the session on these cross-references. And then also, I haven't updated my RStudio, which is the editing platform that I've been using to use Quarto and R within. And we suspect that with the new release of Quarto 1.4 that recently came out, we're suspecting that that may be bundled in the new RStudio update as well. And so instead of doing that offline, I decided that I would wait until today, and then I'll do a live update of RStudio, and we'll see if that has any effect on the cross references before versus after. We do actually have one of our panelists here. It's probably going to be a bit of a panelist light day because several of the typical panelists are in another meeting right now, but we do have someone here in the back room.
Dog goes woof, cat goes meow, bird goes tweet, and mouse goes squeak. Cow goes moo, frog goes croak, and the elephant goes toot. Ducks say quack, and fish go blub, and the seal goes ow, ow, ow. But there's one sound that no one knows. What does the fox say?
Ladies and gentlemen, fear not for my safety. After all, I am smart as a fox, you know.
Oh, I forgot to bring him on.
Oh,
Sorry about that, Casey.
all good.
I was checking a couple of things because I'm a little worried that I'm going to be buffering again today. Like, so if it happens, let me know. I have one thing going on here that makes it look like maybe the signal's not as strong as it ideally should be. So let's actually go ahead and do a quick recap of what happened last week, if I can find my recap transition here.
Well, Rocky and Bullwinkle are up to their necks in trouble, and in water, too, for Boris Badenov dumped them into the harbor and a huge ocean liner began to squeeze them against the dock.
It's coming closer, Rock.
Up on the bridge, Captain Peter Peachfuzz, with his customary efficiency, was giving a series of conflicting orders.
Haul the hawser, half ahead, full astern, batten the hatch, bloop the bleep, smartly now.
But still the ship inched inward.
I can't hold it off, Rock. I'm folded up like an acorn bean.
The crowd gasped, for now there was only one thing between our heroes and disaster: Bullwinkle's antlers.
Will he hold, Bullwinkle?
It ain't the antlers I'm worried about. It's that space in between.
Bloop the bleep. So last week we went over Quarto, and again, these slides are available if anyone's interested in checking them out. These hyperlinks are active, and so within most of these slide decks, we've provided resources that people can go ahead and follow up with more information, even if we don't cover it here on the panel. The release of Quarto, this new version 1.4, that was made public, they highlighted a few things in the release information in the press release that they did for this, and a few of them here I've made note of because this is what we spent most of our time last week covering. Dashboards, I don't think are going to be all that earth-shattering to our users, because this appears to be shiny, packaged within the new version of Quarto, and it's probably something that's of more earth-shattering interest to Python, Julia, and observable users. We did have an interesting kind of not really foreseen type of release that was made here, I guess, which is a new type of document, and that new type of document is a typist document. I think we confirmed that that's the way to pronounce that last week. If we're wrong, too bad, because we're probably going to be using that now for the next few weeks, I'm guessing. We may have a session that explores this a little further, but this is a way to produce PDF documents that maybe is a little lighter on the LaTeX specifications if you want to get fancy in terms of how you format things. Manuscripts is, I think I presented it last week as kind of a newer version of articles, which was a package that was used for scholarly presentation, scholarly manuscript preparation. This one, I guess we could do another week on this, but if we want to do a focused week, but looking into it a little further, it looks like this publishes to a website, and then from that website, you can also render a number of different formats, HTML, PDF, etc. I don't know that this is something that's going to be that's going to avail us of our interest, long-term interest in terms of the dissertation and thesis. It seems like it's probably structured a little more toward academic outlets, which would be traditionally academic journals. And then what we kind of took a look at last week, we said, this looks kind of neat in terms of the update, and is what we will spend the first half of today's session on, our cross-references. Again, this, I guess this isn't a champagne popping revelation or topic, but as we're talking about authoring within R, any updates to things that make navigating these documents a little easier is pretty exciting, I think. So we'll explore cross-references together. So there, again, one of the purposes of these Friday sessions is not to have canned tutorials on how to do things, but rather to work on and explore these features collectively. So I haven't really done much exploration. I don't know, Casey, did you look at all into any of these release features?
Typist, yes. It looks like they already have their own format, so it's kind of like it'll be hard to use it for our thing since we're creating our own format. Dashboards, it's similar to what you were saying about what we had before. but it doesn't really incorporate shining. You would just have to incorporate shining yourself if you want to use like interactive features. I didn't really look into much of manuscripts and cross references though.
Okay, well, good, because today we'll be doing cross references for probably 20 minutes or so, I'm guessing. The other thing we did last week was we made a little bit of progress in the dissertation formatting. In that, we didn't verify it. It's hard to confirm the absence of something, but we did allay ourselves of our concerns that maybe there's an existing template already out there, and it's not a concern. It would have been a great thing if it did exist. But we did do our due diligence at the university and asked the graduate school and asked some hard science programs as well if anyone in any of those academic silos or disciplines or departments or functions, if anyone was aware of a template that anyone had been using for formatting theses or dissertations. And I think we can finally cross that off our list of things to do. So instead of searching internally at the university for a pre-existing solution, we are going to go ahead and build something. And so that'll be the second half today, trying to continue to make progress on dissertation formatting specific for Diego's institution, which is Montclair State University. I did come across kind of a neat reference, as I did do a little exploration into this morning and yesterday as well. Um, there's a LaTeX Ninja site, which is pretty neat, and they have some um, fairly innocuous, it seems, so not too threatening presentation of LaTeX and CSS and I'm sorry, not CSS, but CLS type documents, which stands for class, and STY documents, which stands for style. And they even use the pejorative noob when they're presenting how they kind of carefully and cautiously present these concepts. So for newbies like us. And then we've also been using the metaphor as we're trying to build this template of, well, if I poke the document, if I poke the RMD, because we're using an old R Markdown file right now rather than the newer Quarto platform. So where do I need to poke the our Markdown RMD file in order to make it do what I want it to do? We've been using the metaphor of poking a brain and seeing what body part reacts. And so we found this old Far Side cartoon that pretty much captures what we've been talking about amongst ourselves as we're trying to get the template to work. So today, what I thought we would do is go ahead and take a look at some of these cross references. There are a lot of built-in cross reference types. And the reason this seems to be important is because the labeling of the thing that you're trying to cross-reference is built into Quarto now. So if we want to link to a figure, we're going to want to give it a figure tag. If we want to link to a table, we're going to give it a table tag, because the prefix for the numbered reference that we're creating is going to be linked to the prefix that we actually use. Excuse me. So let's look at the help page for this. Maybe we'll blow it up a little bit. And so again, I have the old version of RStudio and the old version of Quarto installed on my machine locally. So what I thought we would do is I thought we would try a couple of cross references with the old versions of Quarto and RStudio, and then update. The one of the things that is going to be important here, and I don't know if this is just being lazy or if it's bad practice that we've developed, Casey, but when we do, for example, when we do the slides, pull up the source for the slides here. So the upper left-hand panel is information that creates the slide deck. On line 42 here, I have the markdown specification of an image, and that's exclamation point, square brackets, and then parentheses. And in those parentheses, you put the location of the image that you're interested in showing. Now, the curly bracket stuff here is HTML specification for where we want to place it. That typically isn't there. But what we've been doing, and I don't know if it's bad practice or not, and I've certainly developed this habit, is I don't give my image a title.
Oh,
Or
neither do I. Yeah.
yeah, because when we first started doing this, I think what we were told was that the label is going to be most useful for accessibility purposes. So, for example, if someone's using a screen reader um, as they're browsing, that screen reader would pick up on the label and it would help that person understand what the image is actually uh, demonstrating. And so, it
But
obvious,
yeah, no, but the thing is, with almost all our images that we create in R, they're like graphs, and our graphs already have a title. That's why, like, most of the times we don't put a title over another title. Like, it's just redundant.
yeah, good point. Um, I I think but this is going to become important now with the way in which
Mhm.
cross references are going to be used in Quarto moving forward. So this was fine. It probably wasn't all that considerate from an accessibility standpoint in terms of how we structured our presentation of things like images. Um, but Quarto is going to, I think I lost my help page. There we go.
You know what we could do with this, if that's the case? For graphs and visualizations, you know how most of the times we have to put like figure A or image one.
Yeah.
We could do that, and then like a little asterisk, and then like we have a footnotes at the bottom that explains the graphs in the footnotes. If that makes
Yeah,
sense.
I think in general it's going to be moving forward. This is probably good to force us.
Yeah.
So so moving forward, it's probably a good idea to label these images. Um, but if you want to use cross references, it becomes imperative. So
Yep.
so and this wasn't the case previously, but this curly bracket information here that you see that starts with hashtag fig. This is important. This is labeling this image, and it's giving it giving it a tag. And so that tag is something that we can then call out later in the document. And so if we don't provide a label in the square brackets, the cross reference isn't going to work. So it's a required component. So as we pursue cross references, we're going to have to remediate ourselves in terms of that bad practice probably of not including labels within this sort of structure. We have the exclamation point, square bracket, and then parentheses. And then the way to call this out in a Quarto document is just to use the @ sign, which is also different. We did use the @ sign before, but it was @ sign, and then there was a little, it almost looked like LaTeX structuring. There's a slash, and there's a ref command that was used in our markdown documents. That's how we cross-referenced previously. This looks like it's simplified quite a bit. So it's just @ and then whatever the tag is that you create here. So let's go ahead and let's start playing a little bit. And so I'm going to open up a new Quarto document, and we'll try this in HTML. We'll try it in, uh, see if it works as a PDF as well. And maybe we'll even do it as a presentation. That's always fun. Just going to use a blank template here. We've been mostly rendering these to a file that we have within the repository where we're keeping all of these slide decks. And that's just called tests. So we have a test QMD here. I'm just going to overwrite that. And we'll see if it renders. Yay, looks like it does. Let's try an image first. So, and the Quarto parlance, they don't use the word image. They use the word figure. And I think that's because of the way that the thing is labeled. So there is no image prefix, there's a figure prefix. In my mind, and Casey, I think you probably agree, there's a difference between an image, a picture of something, versus a figure. And
Yeah.
maybe that's because of our background. So figure, like you said, in my mind, that means a graph.
Hmm.
So let's try an image first. And so again, the structure is, and we'll use their, you know what? Let's just copy their code, which isn't bad practice. We'll copy this entire script here, and we'll see how this looks. Now, I guess we can look for a picture of an elephant since it's called elephant. You remember Babar, Casey? Babar. Do you remember Babar?
I do not.
Babar was a children's lit elephant. Let's see if he's in here. I don't know if he's even still a thing. That's not
Oh,
how I
I know
remember
who
him.
that is. Yeah. Okay.
It's fine.
Don't worry, Kulos. You're not that old. I know who he is.
We'll find a nice picture of Babar here, and we'll see if this works.
Oof, now I feel old though. That took me back.
Oh,
Oof. I think you have to save the image first.
okay. Yeah, we can do that. Yeah. The other thing that happens here when you get that silliness is usually when you pull it from this preview screen, it copies as the actual URL, but that
Oh.
information thing, I don't even know what that is, but yeah, that does pull up every once in a while. I think I'm gonna try to not save it, Casey, because that repo is actually getting pretty big now. I don't know if you've looked in there recently, but I was even thinking maybe there's a better way to arrange this. Nobody's, as far as I know, I'd be surprised if anyone's actually going in there and looking at stuff. It's there if anyone does want that. But I wonder, I should almost put these different slide creation scripts into a different folder, right? I mean, look at all this stuff.
Mhm.
This is just the main root folder off of that repo. We got way too much stuff in there right now. Okay, let's see if the bar shows up in our HTML document here before we try to cross-reference. There he
You
is.
gotta organize everything, Kulos.
Yeah. Well, I need someone to do it for me because I'm so disorganized myself. Now, they also have, where did my Quarto go? They also have a little bit of code here that you can copy that's supposed to be used in the body of the document itself. And then we can see what happens. We'll put it under this running code chunk. See, at fig elephant. And so at fig elephant is defined here at the end of line 10. And the nice thing about using platforms like this for images and cross references is it should automatically go ahead and number that figure for you in terms of the sequence that it comes up in. Now, the old Quarto and the old R Markdown, what it would always do is if you hit this, it comes in as a hyperlink when you cross-reference. It would always bring you to that figure. And what we're going to check with the new Quarto is whether we get a preview upon hover, which is one of the neat advancements that we think that they actually have. The other types of labels that you can have are table, list, tip, note, warning, and there's a ton of them. So these are all valid. Now, I haven't tried this, but I assume if we were to call that figure a TBL instead of an FIG, that in our rendered document, what we would see is instead of see figure 1, it would say see table 1, even though obviously that's not a table. So let's try that. Again, I haven't tried this yet. Let's make sure that TBL, yeah, TBL is what they want. So let's render that. And our expectation is it's still going to cross-reference, but maybe it'll call it a, ooh, okay, didn't. So it doesn't, maybe there is some internal logic that the type of object that it's referencing, maybe it's expecting something. We could try a different, I don't want to waste too much time on this because it's kind of silly and something that I just thought of. But we could try to call it something else and see if it comes through. let's try tip. Let's see if our elephant, if the bar can be a tip. Tip, tip. And we'll render that. Yeah, doesn't like that. So we're gonna have to keep it a fig. We could probably force different types if that was something that we really wanted to do. But it's not something that at this point we have any reason to do that okay, now this is a surprise. Now I did not expect to see this panelist here this early. He's supposed to be noodling over some very deep machine learning concepts, but maybe he's just so brilliant from working on his dissertation so carefully that they've solved all the machine learning that they need.
Vamos a ver, ¿qué es lo que pasa con los alcaldes? ¿Qué es lo que pasa con los alcaldes? ¿Qué es lo que sí, qué está pasando con los alcaldes?
Hey, what's up?
Diego, did you guys solve the machine learning competition problem already?
Yeah, we got it already. We won.
Already.
All right, now give Velocity the answer, and we can submit our own.
Yeah, give us the answer.
All right.
No, it's secret. I'm not giving you the secret sauce.
We missed the meeting, so we can't come in. I get it. Let's try a normal figure. So instead of just a picture, let's try an actual figure. And so I have from previous weeks, when we were working on the PowerPoint, when we were working on placing figures and images in places that we wanted within PowerPoint slides, the three of us, it was the three of us that were working on it. We created different plots. And so I have just the syntax for one of those here. And again, this isn't syntax that we came up with. This is just syntax that's out there on the internet that we could go ahead and grab. Now this is Diego's pretty Palmer Penguins plot. So I'm going to go ahead and load ggplot as well as Palmer Penguins in here. And we should get a stacked histogram or differentiated histogram across the species of penguins. The thing that we're going to need to do, however, is we're going to need to give this figure a label. So let's first of all, let's just see if it renders without a label. And we got a lot of warnings there, but there's our picture, and our picture currently isn't referenced at all. We'll go ahead and get rid of those warnings, but then we'll give it a label as well. And I'm going to try to be good here and try to use the Quarto specification instead of inside the curly brackets, which is where we used to place this information. We're going to try to use the hash pipe notation. So warning and then message probably we'll set to false as well. And then I think what we really want is we want that label. And so label should actually give us a figure name like we have here. So figure elephant with a label, we should get a figure name on this graph. As Casey alluded to earlier, we can also, within ggplot, we could give it a label. I'm not sure if this takes double quotes, single quotes, or if we can just type. So let's just type. We'll just call it not an elephant. And see what that renders like. Okay, so not an elephant. Whoop, we're still getting, oh, we should set echo to false as well. So we don't need to see our code here. The not an elephant isn't showing up yet. And so we haven't called it out in the document. The other thing that we probably want to do is we want to check and see if there's another specification that we want in the code chunk itself in addition to simply label. And so what I'm doing here is I'm just kind of scrolling through and looking for a code chunk example, fig cap. So cap is probably something that is going to be helpful for referencing and identifying this chunk here. And they do use double quotes. So let me see. Did they use double quotes? They didn't on the label. However, they don't have any spaces on the label either. So we'll go ahead and do that as well. Our code should disappear. Our plot now comes up, but it doesn't have, in terms of the fig cap, but it doesn't have a number like figure 1 has here with Babar. So the way in which we should get a number is just to call out that code, or I'm sorry, that figure. And so the at symbology should be helpful here as well. So if we see figure elephant for an illustration, we can see figure not an elephant as well for additional. And by the way, as I'm coding here, can you guys keep an eye on the back room and let me know if anyone else shows up? I got too many screens here, so it's hard for me to see if someone actually shows up. I didn't like that. They did not. So let's go ahead. Yeah.
I can't really hear you well. I hear you like muffled.
Oh, sorry. Doggone it. I thought I had the audio issues figured. It might be my internet, which is a little wonky today, I think. Is that any better or not?
Yeah, now I hear you fine.
Okay. Maybe it was just fixing that hold my microphone here. So let's try the plot that they have here as an example, and we'll come back to the plot that we just created. So we'll see how this renders. Figure 2, plot 2, that did come through fine. What is different about ours? One of the things that's different, and so we learned about this throughout the years of working with R Markdown is, and again, not sure if this is a feature or a bug, or if it's even valid, but the ordering of information seems to sometimes make a difference. It certainly does in the YAML. If we were to go to the top of this document on lines 2 and 3 here, the ordering of certain YAML commands seems to be important. Now, the ordering of label and fig cap in our chunk here starting on line 18, it was at the bottom below the warning, message, and echo lines. The first thing we'll do is we'll swap it and see if that has any difference. The other thing that we should look and see is to make sure that there's no spelling errors, which is another reason that might not come through. But all we did here was we swapped order of specification of those commands, and it still didn't work, so that's not entirely surprising. It doesn't like that. So what else should we do? That's kind of surprising, actually. Let's call it something a little simpler, so we can stay on top of it. Are we repeating the plot in terms of the big cap? That shouldn't matter. But we'll change those. Well, I'm not going to render because that's such an inconsequential change that it shouldn't matter. So we'll call that penguins. And expect that it says question mark at penguins here. Could it be that we have a title in here? I don't think so. But we can take that title out. It might be conflicting commands in that sense. And then the other thing we can do is we can try to render this using the old specifications, which would be inline up here. The cap. What? And also a label. So a label used to just be right next to the R specification, so we can tell it. If that kind of doubt it. Again, we're mixing old styles and new styles here. Like that. All right, guys, this is the point of this session is to do problem solving. What do we think is going on here? Let's do this. Let's take this code and we'll plot it into the plot that we know works. And we'll see if maybe it's something specific to our ggplot object. Nope. So it came through just fine in the second one. So it's something in our lines 19 through 20 or 19 through 23
Can you
here.
try deleting 21 to 23?
Do what? Check.
Remove those and just have the
Remove them?
label and fig cap. Yeah.
Oh, I gotcha. Because that's what we have down here.
Yeah.
Okay. Good idea.
And then we can add like warning and everything else one at a time just to see what happens.
That's a good idea.
That's a good idea. What
Did it
in
load?
the world? So I'm going to copy previous one, which works. It's embedded in the same sentence, so it shouldn't be a space issue. Okay, so
Wait, that's it right there, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what I did was I just swapped out. I'm still not calling up penguins here. I'm calling up the first one. So we get two figure ones, which is what we're asking for. Maybe, does there need to be a specification that this object itself is a figure? So we can try. I keep looking for my Chrome window because that's where I usually go for this type of stuff. And by default, I have, what's it called? What's the swirly Microsoft one?
Internet Explorer.
Yeah.
Microsoft Edge.
Edge. Thank you. Yeah, it used to be Explorer, but now it's Edge. That's where all this stuff comes up by default. So one of the things that sometimes can work around this with these types of objects is to assign it and then print it out. So we'll see if that has any sort of difference. It shouldn't, but maybe it does. Oh, I forgot to change this to penguins. Penguins.
I remember for our package, we had to use print, I think, right? For one of those plots.
Yeah, we did. You can try that. It's almost like the chunk needs some sort of specification to say there's a, even though this ggplot object is a figure, we almost need a specification that says, hey, this is what to look for.
There's an error on the ggplot.
Yeah, I see that. I think that's, well, one of the things we're going to do is update to see what happens before and after, but that's not going to do us any good if we don't get the reference here. Now, the ggplot object itself is being stored as a list. This isn't a solution that we're going to want, but let's try it. Let's actually see if we can give it a label. Oh, this, no, I don't think that's it. Let's see if we can get it a different label. Sorry, I'm making everyone dizzy here as I scroll. But I'm just looking for the types of prefixes that we can actually use to see if that has any sort of effect. I'm guessing that it's not identifying that what's in this chunk here as a figure internally, whatever it's using for a figure. Well, this isn't how I wanted to use most of the time today, but we got to figure this one out. Oh, I'm an idiot. I'm sorry. The reason that it's not calling up this figure within the rendered document itself is because in addition to needing a label within the exclamation point, square bracket, parentheses structure, it also wants the prefix to appear within the label itself. So I just called it penguins. I didn't call it fig penguins. And that's what's happening here in the difference. So silly. As per usual, it's a kind of a silly error. So I shouldn't need the P or the print P. Again, one of the beauties of live coding is making these errors and trying to rectify the errors as we go. So there we have our figure 1, elephant, figure 2, penguins, and figure 3, penguins as well. I think we can go back now and get rid of the echo just to clean things up a little bit, and the warnings. Watch it blow up again. And message is the other one that you can set these as global commands. So it's operative on each chunk, but we're not doing that many chunks. So we can just go ahead and copy and paste as well. I'm going to get rid of some of the intermediate text just because it's kind of cluttery. And we don't need that much clutter. So we'll render this. And then maybe we'll render it as a PDF. And then also take a look at the install and see what these cross-references do at that point. Again, right now with the old install of RStudio and Quarto, what it's doing is it's just jumping to that with the hyperlink. And what our excitement is that we believe upon updating, we're going to see a preview on that hover instead of just jumping to it. So let's try it as a PDF first. One of the things that historically has happened with all of this authoring stuff using R is that there's different syntax that is operative with different output formats and different ways of structuring things. So with the PDF, by default, it's putting these images at the end. Those hyperlinks are working, so that's good. If I just hit 1, 2, and 3, it's taking me to those objects. So that's good. It's working in both the HTML as well as the PDF format. I'm going to leave it as PDF for now, and I'm going to go ahead and do my quick install. I don't know, Diego, have you updated your RStudio?
I tried, but it's still 4.2.3. I don't know why.
Well, is that R or RStudio though that you're talking about?
RStudio.
Okay. Yeah, it says I'm using.
Yeah, you're also using 4.2.3. It should be 4.3.2.
What?
That's the most
Right.
up-to-date one.
Well, we'll see what they have here. And we're just guessing. We're assuming that Quarto 1.4 comes installed with this, right? Again, probably not the wisest thing to try this on a day where my internet already seems a little bit slow, but we'll go ahead and wait for it here.
Does your dog that? No? Oh. Nice dog. I thought you said your dog did not bite.
That is not my dog.
Uh, 2 minutes left. Casey, did you do an install of RStudio? I thought you
The
said
new
you
one,
did.
I think I did like last week, unless another version came out recently.
Did you notice any differences?
Mostly when I tried using the new formats like Typist and not Bookdown, dashboards.
So you just played around?
Yeah.
Dashboard. Okay.
Yeah. So
played
when I
around a
use
little.
Typist dashboard, I noticed the difference in the format of there, but not really of RStudio and art stuff.
Did you just do the default document for the Typist document, or did you play around and put customized content in there?
I just did the default, and then yeah, I played around with it, but I didn't try like doing anything like, you know how in ours we were able to do like APA style 7 and the format came out like that, or like I haven't tried doing that just because I didn't think personally it would work.
So you thought this.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought.
You just go crashing right into a billboard. Okay, well, it looks like it's almost complete here. We'll go ahead and install that, and hopefully nothing crashes. I think the main lesson for today is that prefix is really important on your labels. That, you know, how much time did we waste just trying to figure that out? It's kind of a silly mistake. I'm just going to go with the defaults here. I don't know. Maybe, you know what I should have done? Next time, if we do this again, maybe what I will do is to just, I have a laptop, so maybe keep the old version on desktop and keep the new version on laptop. Well, I don't know if that's a great idea either, because different hardware can interact differently with these updates. I was kind of thinking that it'd be nice to show difference on the same machine, but maybe we didn't need to do that. How's the weather there in Jersey? I'm guessing it's about 60.
Yeah, it's getting better.
Yeah, today's a pretty good day.
Okay, yeah, because my weather apps that I use are still linked to New Jersey and other Cleveland, Ohio for some reason. So today I went to meet a friend and I just wore this because my weather app said it was 60. And then I walked outside and it was, I think the high today here in the area of Minnesota I'm in is 30. So, and it's cloudy, which one of the reasons I thought that the internet connection might not be great is because clouds can interfere with that. All right, let's actually take a look at our options here in terms of Quarto and see if anything looks different. I don't see any typist coming up, so I wonder, oops, I wonder if, I wonder if that Quarto update did not come packaged with RStudio. So we might have to install Quarto separately. I'll check that test file and see if anything looks different. And again, the expectation is just going to be on preview. And we left it off as a PDF, but we'll try it as an HTML document as well. I'm not seeing any preview upon hover with the PDF. And nothing there either. This is okay. So this is something that I hadn't explored. Do you guys know how to find what version of Quarto you have? I'm gonna search for that too. I know there are supplementary documents that come up when we render, and those supplementary documents do.
Yeah. In packages, if you type Quarto, I have version 1.3.
Okay, well, this is good to know too, because I was under the understanding that there is a Quarto package, but the Quarto installation was maybe distinct from the package, but probably not, huh? So let's go ahead and we'll do an actual update on Quarto, just the package, and see if that has any effect. Q is at such a weird place in the alphabet. I don't know why, but I don't think of it as being before R.
Wait, what version are you guys on?
1.3. I don't even know if I have it on here.
I have 1.3, but I don't think there's like a more recent version than that.
Yeah, 1.4 is the new version. That's what we want to try.
I don't know why I can access 1.4 then, even if I'm on 1.3.
Why am I not seeing this in my list of possible packages?
Yeah, I'm not seeing it either.
To update.
Is it possible that we have to uninstall Quarto and then reinstall it?
It's possible that it has a dependency of the most recent R, which would kind of suck. I don't want to.
Is there a most recent R that came out?
Reinstall R. I'm sure there is. I'm using. Oh God, internet! Don't look at that. I'm sorry. I'm using a version from 2022. What?
I see the most recent version of R is 4.3.2, and I'm on that version right now.
That's what I told you before.
But my Quarto is also version 1.3, and it's not saying.
It's not showing me 1.4 either.
Mine is 1.3 too.
Okay, well, let's figure this out. I know, Diego, sorry, we're kind of jeopardizing your time here.
It's fine.
But I'm going to go ahead and install it outside of R, and we'll see if that does anything. Fun live stream. Watch Kulas install 3 different packages in 3 different programs.
It's helpful. We need to know.
Yeah, it is kind of helpful as we're learning this stuff for the first time. That's really surprising that. So there is a disconnect between the package Quarto and the program Quarto. That's, but there's a link as well, because the package says 1.3. The release that we're looking for is 1.4. The package is also seems to parallel the installation here. Oh, they already have a pre-release of a 1.5. They work so hard over there. They're always doing something new, different.
Who is this man?
He's Mr. Stutterstuff.
I see. And what is your job, Mr. Stuckerstuff?
He's the beekeeper.
I'm not asking you. I'm asking Mr. Stuffsucker.
I'll have to redo that one. It comes through different. It cuts off the good point, the good part, where he. He actually
Oh, my Quarto just like crashed.
Fun. And then I'm going to exit R as well, just in case there's something that interferes. Diego, how did the meeting go?
It went
For the
well.
machine.
We received the data yesterday, and I uploaded it to. I put it on GitHub, and it's 4 different tasks. Some of them are you have to do natural language processing and create an LLM. Others are just a simple prediction with all variables being numeric. So yeah, pretty and then your score is determined by an aggregation of their accuracy and cosine, similarity, and a bunch of metrics.
So for anybody watching, the subset of people that are on the panel are also doing a competition, and we're learning large language models, which I know nothing about. But so you might hear us chat about that over the course of the next few weeks, up through, I think, probably April. Okay, well, I think that install went through. Let's go and see if our studio looks any different. Diego, are we supposed to like use Chat GPT or one of those pre-existing whatever things they're called, AI interfaces, or are we just doing this all through Python or R?
No, yeah, we can. They have a document here that you have to use either ChatGPT, BERT, whatever you want, because you need to be able to. There's like questions, and you need to be able to create a bot that sort of like answers those questions. So we'll probably need to access the API of ChatGPT or something. But I don't think we'll need to use the interface. We can, yeah, we can access the API from R or from Python. Or at least that's what I'm planning. I might be wrong.
Are people? So are we going to have people in small teams?
For now, we're
Or is
thinking that we would have like teams of people taking care of each of the tasks. There's 4 tasks in total. But we'll see first. We'll talk more about it on Tuesday at 2 p.m. Because right now people are still they haven't even checked the data because we
Yeah,
just got
okay.
it yesterday, so we're still digesting everything.
Oh, it did. Okay, so the Quarto is working, but the package is still saying 1.3. So we are getting an hour in. We're getting a preview on Hover on the links, and this is the thing that we thought would be neat with Quarto 1.4. And so again, not only does that hyperlink take you to it, but the Hover shows you a preview, which is kind of cool. We can also do is let's just do one more thing to beat this horse even more dead than it already is. Let's do a code chunk because I think we can you can reference all kinds of things, not just figures and tables, but we can reference code chunks as well. So let's look for something that might be close to that and see if we can reference it. Tables, or maybe just to get out of this, we can do a annotation reference as well, because we talked about callouts. Oh, here's a code listing. Oh, that's what the LST is. All right, let's try this. This is a different use of the 3 ticks here. I'm most curious to see if this actually if this actually upon hover. And let's go ahead and let's put a different image in here as go. I think I have some old code, virus data. Go ahead. We don't have duplicates. We can put in a different code block here. And this is going to be a not very interesting graph, scatter plot. And again, you can see upon hover that it shows up. It's kind of difficult to see because the in-text references are so close to the files themselves.
So I think you're like breaking in and out.
Ian, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like your mic is just lower. I could still hear you, but it's like barely making it out.
Okay. I wonder if that's my internet connection because I think I have. Any better now?
Yeah, it's much better. I don't know if you just moved your mic or if like the internet came back.
Yeah, I don't know either. I wish I had better control over that. I'm just gonna put I'm just putting some random text in so we can maybe see the preview.
I'm gonna head out now. It's 3, and I have something to finish up for work.
Okay, see you, Casey. Thanks for stopping by. Have a good weekend.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
And there you see upon hover, it shows up, and if I hit it, we hyperlink to it. We did want to do quickly a code block as well, and so. So let's repeat one of these blocks in terms of the content and see if we can reference that. I don't know if the SQL command means anything. I kind of doubt it. And again, we don't want to process that. We'll see what happens. There's no, the code chunk's a little weird because it's not calling out a language here, but we do have a listing, and yeah, that listing does actually show up. That's pretty neat, actually. Let's try. One of the things that our Markdown struggled with previously was if you had a reference prior to the chunk, and that kind of got annoying in terms of where you placed chunks. So let's put the reference above the chunk and see if this listing still comes in, reads in okay. I put it up here. Yeah, there it is. Neat. Okay, that's good to know. So the code chunk previews are actually pretty neat. And the other thing that we see here is that the placement doesn't need to be, at least for the code chunk, it doesn't need to be after the chunk itself in terms of its location from top of the document to bottom of the document. Diego, do you want to spend a little time on dissertation formatting, or are you out of energy?
No, we can leave that for next week.
Okay.
I don't have much to update anyways.
Yeah, so one of the things that I did was I looked into those class file specifications, and I looked at the dissertate a little bit as well. The thing I couldn't, maybe you and I on Tuesday, maybe what we can look at is, since you forked the dissertate USU repository and created your own dissertate MSU repository, what I tried to do was I tried to change some of the CLS specification in your dissertate MSU, but then pull that package and run those package functions instead of dissertate USU. Does that make sense? I tried to do that, but I ran into an error, and off the top of my head, that was on my laptop. So off the top of my head, I can't replicate the error right now, but maybe on Tuesday I can show you that. The other thing that I did was I looked back into some of the just straightforward LaTeX syntax structuring commands, and those are, I have one up here actually. So for creating things in PDF documents. So I was thinking, for example, just making lines. There's no package necessary for this, but we can just, to make a line, we can just use this LaTeX code. So if we go back, let me get rid of all this stuff. Well, we could leave it, but just put in a line. So this is just going to put in a small horizontal line. I was thinking, like, for your committee members, you know, that if we don't completely follow the Dissertate USU template, we could create some of these little 1-by-1 pieces ourselves. So you see there that line that's created. If you want to make it thicker, you can, you know, make it thicker. If you want to make it longer, you can make it longer. So we could, yeah, I mean, that's the kind of thing where we could specify fairly easily. You know, it's kind of busy work, but it's something that we could, oh, it doesn't like, well, oh, it did work.
This
fine.
would be CSS code?
This is LaTeX. So on line 6 here, this is that LaTeX, which is which controls the formatting style of PDF documents specifically. So roughly anytime you see those forward slashes, it's not universally true, but often those forward slashes are signs that we're dealing with LaTeX specification. And so in that CLS, the Dissertate USU package has 2 different CLS files, and then it has a bunch of LaTeX interspersed in the main RMD as well. And so, you know, as we're going back and forth between what's in the CLS file and what's in the main RMD, the question that popped into my head was, well, instead of trying to find where all the different specifications are in this structure, how much of a hassle would it be to just add some of our own custom LaTeX, for example, with, you know, things like lines underneath names. And so that, you know, that would not be all that difficult. This is new too, by the way, this render pop-up that we're getting. This is a new, we didn't have that before the Quarto installation. The other thing I think I'm going to have to look into between this week and next is what's the relationship or what's the disconnect between the Quarto package and the Quarto software itself that we just installed outside of our studio. Because there's obviously not a one-to-one parallel there between the 2 different things. And we had read that as well, that the Quarto package is not the same as Quarto. But, you know, understanding the implications of that and what that really means, we don't know yet. That's different than our Markdown. So our Markdown was just a package. This Quarto seems to have a life of its own outside of the R ecosystem. Okay, so you and I will touch base then on Tuesday. On the next week, hopefully we'll spend most of our time on the dissertation template, since we didn't have any time to do that today, right?
Yeah, and I'll submit to 8 p.m. I'll do it on my own because I'm getting better with the thing, and I'll include your email there.
Okay, that sounds good. You have a good weekend.
You too. Bye.
All right, thanks.